Okay, I believe we are live. Double check Twitch here. Refresh, refresh, refresh. There we go. Okay, Fireside chat number 289. Again, not too much going on lately. Kind of a quiet April. Kusiag posted a reminder and announcements that I echo, which is we're trying to make sure everyone is putting their platoon in their roll call. And you may ask, why do we need to do that? A, because platoons are kind of a new thing. Well, we've kind of brought them to the fore again. They existed, but very peripherally previously. So with that addition, it's important to A, kind of help introduce people to them by saying, oh, what's my platoon? Okay, I have to type that in. Oh, that's my platoon. And B, it helps administratively because people have to do a review where they have to check who's posted in roll call and such, and they can actually just search for their platoon name and see all the people who've posted that platoon name. So that makes it really, really easy. A lot of the platoons don't have so many people that it's a huge encumbrance to have to look people up individually, but it still just makes everyone's job easier. And yeah, and for us old schoolers, kind of takes us back to old battle.net, where your battle.net profile in StarCraft or Warcraft 3 or what have you would have all this information. It would have your rank, your recruiter, recruitment date, house, family, platoon, division, even too. But we haven't gone to the extent of having people have to list their division or so on at this point. Just the platoons, although divisions do exist. Right now, those are really serving the purpose of just kind of providing some backup and oversight to the platoons, essentially. So the divisions are not currently such as they were, say, 15 years ago, where there was a StarCraft division composed of StarCraft platoons. Currently, it's more like each division has kind of a smattering of different platoons. There's some thought put into it as far as how they're organized, but it's not necessarily just, okay, this division plays the same games or some such. Big thing is officer meeting this Saturday, so we've got that going on. And then not far off on the horizon is the next Hjor thing, the 7th, if I have my count right, which should be pretty cool. So probably what we'll do is open registration for that around the middle of May. And what you'll be able to do is sign up to be a judge or sign up to participate. And we are going to be doing something kind of cool this year. So a little bit reminiscent of what we used to do many years ago, which was that you could actually, if you challenge somebody to fight in the Hjor thing, who is part of a different house, you could either wager points or you could capture them and force them to fight for your house for a specified amount of time or number of duels or some such. Which is kind of cool. It can be a little bit hard to keep track of. So the idea I had that I think we're going to try, some people seem to think it sounded good, is when you register, you are actually able to register for any house that you want, even the borderline dead houses like House Thief or House Blitzkrieg. So for the purposes of the house war, you can accumulate points for any house that you want. It's a little bit anachronistic or whatever you want to call it, but I think it's kind of a cool opportunity. A lot of people have talked about, oh, I wish I could transfer to one of these dead houses and revive it because that would be kind of cool. And I just don't see how it's feasible with the way our lineage works. I think breaking those kind of rules would just be pretty wrong. But I think that in the spirit of house wars and in the spirit of kind of honoring these basically deceased houses, it's an interesting thought to say, oh, I want to fight for the banner of this house, even though I'm not, originally from it. I want to do that for this competition, for fun, basically. And yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, I think another thing it will do is maybe make things more interesting, give people the opportunity to, oh, maybe you can play against people who normally are in your own house, so you can never challenge them, that kind of thing. So I think it could be fun, just to add that extra element to it. I mean, not to brag, but House Dippity has won a lot of house wars. And I mean, those are earned victories, but at the same time, um, I think it really it's kind of easy for the bigger the house is, the more points you get. I mean, we've tried things like adding handicaps in the past, but it just feels really cheap to say like, oh, because this house only has 4 people, they get 50 points every time they win. That just it doesn't really seem fair. I mean, mathematically it seems fair, but in actuality, it's like shouldn't technically you be rewarded for having built up your house to have a bunch of people in it? And then the house war comes around, your time to shine against other houses, and all of a sudden, no, it doesn't matter because it almost would be easier if you didn't have those people because then you could get a huge point bonus if we had a handicap system. So that's why I'm not always a huge fan of those. I see the argument, but it feels strange to me. And I guess my opinion is that if you're in a very small house and you fight in a house war, you shouldn't feel like you're going to win it. I mean, that's kind of part of building up a house. And if you compete and fight and maybe even get some points, then you should feel proud of that. Um, Not feel bad just because you didn't have the opportunity to win because you're part of a very small house. Because frankly, anyone can change that. And you have the whole year between each your thing to change it to some degree. So I think that could be interesting to have that opportunity to maybe involve some other houses in it, even if it's only in kind of a spiritual, fun way. So we will probably do that. Beyond that, I said officer meeting. Yeah, so we'll probably open up registration and basically you'll register for a house. One thing that we are probably going to do is if you kind of going with the sort of thematic fun element, if you want to register for a house that is not your own, you will need to submit a kind of a statement, uh, an argument. Maybe we'll come up with some specific term to call it, but basically an argument as to why you want to fight for that house. Because as much as it's for fun, I think that on the other hand, just to kind of honor the system that we have kept for so long and continue to keep, that you should have to make some effort to say, well, this is why I want to fight for House Blitzkrieg. And it should be something more substantial than just, my friend's doing it, or something like that. I mean, that's your statement, maybe it gets approved. But what we're really looking for is that you have some reason that you actually want to engage with that house's history, even if it's just as a sort of briefly, temporarily adopted representative. Um, I think that that's what we were looking for, is that if you want to fight for this other house's banner, then you need to show some higher level of interest than just a passing random choice. So that's probably something that we'll ask. It doesn't have to be that you write an essay or something, but that you do actually put a little bit of thought into it. Because it is kind of a big deal to represent a different house in House War. Because actually, yes, the system of bondsmen before, where you could win somebody to fight for your house, did exist, but this is kind of taking that a step further and saying I can just straight up fight for a different house. I mean, yeah, we've had some cases where, okay, House Kilroy fought for House Commander because they had an alliance and they're kind of related and that kind of thing, but we're not forcing you to stick to those rules of there has to be some lineage relation. For the purposes of this competition, we're probably going to allow people to fight for any house that they want, so even if you don't have a literal relation to it. So we'll see, but I think it could be just kind of a fun way to maybe make the competition a little bit spicier. But I think other than that, we don't have a whole lot. Yeah, we talked about the roll calls. I'm going to just reminder, not only officer meeting, but lectures. My intention is to record some more lectures. I know I've been saying that. I know, but also talking about doing some more night order training that hasn't really been feasible for me to do right now. If you're really interested in it, contact me, but I'm going to ask you to do a little bit more of the legwork right now. But if you talk to me, that will just make my job a little bit easier rather than having to go through and make the effort for every single apprentice that I'm training for everything when I don't know if the return effort's necessarily going to be there. So if you're interested, don't feel bad, just reach out to me. But Yeah, that, and then lectures. I need to do some lectures, and we still have COs from last year that have not commented on a lecture yet. So you need to do that. I don't want to have to just start demoting people for a rather small requirement, but if people just ignore the requirement, then I will. So please actually comment on a lecture and let me know when you do so we can get you marked off. And we're almost halfway through the year, if you can believe it. So there will be another requirement of a lecture comment for this year. Which, by the way, one lecture comment per year is substantially reduced requirement from when we first rolled this out. It was like two or three per year. So one per year should really not be that hard to watch one YouTube video a year and just write a comment on it. That should be extremely easy. So asking people to find time to do that who have not done it already. But I think that about does it. I'll be around from office hours for a little while.